So I'm back. Here I am. I received word that we want to know more about me. Okay, I could do that. Zero side chat. It was Cocoa Puffs today. Hold on, sorry. And let's see where to start. So, reminder: Steve Schoenberg for the 2016 Schoenberg 2016 campaign. I have to apologize. Yesterday, in my zeal to get out the message, I said I wanted to be the only candidate for president willing to restrain the power of the executive branch, and I got on board saying I would sign a constitutional law to ban executive actions, and I said constitutional amendments, and of course that's embarrassing for a social studies teacher to say that the president is involved in the constitution making amendment process because the president isn't, and I'm not too big of a person to deny that. So my bad on that, but I would certainly support a constitutional amendment to limit the power of the presidency in terms of executive actions. Now, for myself, and again, I've just received feedback that we need to know more about me. Okay, I'm a little bit of a dichotomous person. First and foremost, I value my family above everything else. That just comes first for me. I'm a common sense guy. I like things that make sense. I like take any. I like recycling because it makes sense, not because necessarily I'm a tree loving hippie or anything, but why throw something out if I could turn it into something else? I just like things that are logical in life. Um, I'm a white collar worker by trade in my profession, but I have worked in other fields in my life, from retail, front end at a store, to the trades where I've worked in plumbing and heating. So I call myself dirty white collar. You know, I kind of flip between both worlds pretty well. I like steak, I like sushi, but I grill a mean burger and I like ramen noodles and obviously cereal. I drive a pickup truck. I split my own firewood. I'm an outdoorsman. I like to hang out with my friends on the weekends. They usually end up yelling at me because I end up talking politics, though, or current events, or history. So, again, I kind of skirt the line between both worlds. Um, Kind of average American, I guess, living the dream. I got a wife, I got two kids, my family's mostly nearby. We see each other a lot. Um, my interests are average at best. My interest in politics stems from the fact that I just think someone else needs to do the job rather than someone who wants to do the job. I'm more of George Washington. I'm not George Washington, but George Washington is a reluctant president. He did a lot for his country and certainly would have liked maybe just to go back to Mount Vernon and rock on the porch for a while, but his nation needed him, so he stood up and said, "Okay, sure." And I think that I don't think you're going to find a another candidate willing to say, "Elect me," so that I can make myself less important, and and I'm willing to do that. By all means, that's what I'm running for. So I don't know what else you need to know about me. Again, I live in both worlds. I have tattoos under my shirt and tie. So, oh, speaking of tattoos, I wanted to get yesterday. I ran out of time on YouTube into the Bill of Rights. I always tell my kids, my students, I want to get the Bill of Rights tattooed on my face. I just the Declaration of Independence on one side, the Bill of Rights on the other. It's just it's amazing, and you really should reread it and be reminded of your rights. We do a cool activity in my class where the kids have to look at a scenario where a right is being denied and figure out which amendment is supposed to protect that right. And usually it's pretty eye opening. I mean, people don't understand the difference between freedom of the press and freedom of speech. And I'm a big supporter of all these things: freedom of the speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. I mean, if you don't believe this country is a religious country, go back to your history book, chapter, well, maybe two or three, about the first immigrants to come over to this country, and see why they did that, especially in New England. So I'm all about freedom of religion. I happen to be a religious person, but if you don't want to be, then okay. Unlike some other countries in the world, we don't kill you for that. We don't execute you for that. We say, okay, if you want to be Christian, if you want to be Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim, you want to worship an oak tree, as I say in my classroom, and do an acorn dance all winter long, that's fine too, as long as you're not taking away anyone else's ability to do that. Um, there's 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. I've tried to rank them. I think the ones at the beginning and the ones at the end are the probably the most powerful and the most applicable to the modern day. Um, but I just think more people need to appreciate the fact that they're there and be familiar with them so that they can understand that those were designed to protect us from what our forefathers knew was a government that, by very definition, would eventually try to take those rights away. I mean, the debates between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists were not about whether or not government would come after the people. Generally speaking, both agreed that government needs to be controlled, but the one side saying government is controlled by the limits of the Constitution, and the other one saying, well, it's not controlled unless the limits are placed. So I tell my students all the time, and you'll see that I refer to them a lot, but I say, if you're babysitting my kids and I don't say you can't have a party, does that mean you can? So if the Constitution just said, well, you can't take away people's free speech, then you can't. But what if it didn't? If it didn't, can it? Well, we don't have to have this discussion because we have a Bill of Rights, so that protects it for us. The other things, I mean, I don't really want to get into a lot today. It's Friday. It's a beautiful day. I just got home from work. But I did mention freedom of religion and all that. And I watched these debates, and everyone's talking about immigrants, and that's an entirely different conversation. Ask my students if you want to know about it. I'm a big fan of immigration. If you're not 100% Native American, you kind of have to be a big fan of immigration in this country. I believe there is a dividing line between what is legal and what is not legal immigration. But I'm not, I don't want to get into this now, but I'm not going to champion deportations of anything, mass deportations of people. I mean, I always say immigrants are the best, most hardest working people ever. I mean, look back in your family tree. Who worked harder, you or your ancestors? The ones who came to America. And we look at the immigrants coming here now, and it's like, if I go to my friend's house and they're Italian and they have Italian food and they're having Italian flag waving and Italian music's playing, that's okay. But if you go to someone's house and they're Mexican or Guatemalan and they have Mexican food or Mexican flag and Mexican music playing, that's not okay. I don't understand that. The benefits of immigration for me are found in the food court of any mall, where you look around and you see the nations of the world represented and the deliciousness that they've brought to our country, literally and figuratively in terms of the enrichment of our culture. But immigrants, I mean, they're usually the most hardworking. They're usually the most religious. I mean, they do the things that we all started doing, or our ancestors started doing, and then we just kind of became lazy over time. So I'm a big fan of immigration. Again, I mean, you look back at the history of Ellis Island, they did restrict who was coming, when, and why, and I think as a nation you're allowed to do that, and you're allowed to be careful about who you let in. But the fact that we have the concept of, whether you want to call it illegal or undocumented immigrants, trying to come here, I mean, think about this, honestly. Would they be trying to come here if we were a terrible place to live? And again, the concern would be some people trying to come here to stop us from being as awesome as we are. But we just have the coolest country in the world, and people want to get in. They want to get on the guest list to come in. And some people make it, and some people don't, and some people are so upset about that and want to be here, they try to break into the party. That's a compliment. It's a compliment to where we live. And it needs to be addressed in the sense of legality, in the sense of fairness to people who've come before that. But, I mean, isn't that admirable to want to risk law break? I'm not encouraging this behavior, but to come to a country just for a better chance to live for you and your kids, you're willing to break the law? I can't condone law breaking, but I mean, unless you're a bad person, if you're doing it for the right reasons, we have to be able to differentiate. You can't make blanket statements like, I'm going to throw everybody out or I'm going to let everybody in. Sure, there's some bad people. You need to find them. But you got to imagine that most people just want a chance of what we all have been spoiled with, and that's the American dream. I got into something here I said I wasn't going to get into. Like I said, it's a beautiful Friday. The sun's shining. My wife's on the way home. We're going to go pick up our kids and hang out outside. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch up with you again, I don't know, maybe in a couple weekends. Not a couple weekends, a couple days. I'm going to enjoy the weekend, and I hope you do the same. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.